go. Those are the 7 things that we're going to be learning about briefly. And then later on, of course, Editor Edward will interpret them based on what we read today. So this is a reading for the reading. Carl Jung, in his Black Books, he was doing this active imagination thing where he was like delving into his unconscious, his subconscious, and interacting with Jungian archetypes, you might say, as they became known. Before Jung, they were known as, like gods and angels and stuff like that. But then he developed sort of a psychological theory, you might say, in which these things are symbolic characters which exist in our minds, in our subconscious, and collectively, we share these things. One example that sometimes I give is, if I say or sing da 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 da, and like have you picture like primary colors like red, blue, and yellow, you can kind of feel the presence of the Christopher Reeves Superman. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, do yourself a favor. Stop watching this right now. Go find the 1978 Superman. That's the real Superman movie. If your only exposure to Superman as a movie is that Man of Steel, Zack Snyder shit. Anyway. So Superman exists. Oh, there he is. Inspiring. I feel it. Oh, you gotta, be like Superman and feel inspired by Superman. So Superman is something that can exist, you might say exists in our collective unconscious. You might even call him a Jungian archetype, though I don't know if everybody would agree with me who has some authority to say what is or is not a Jungian archetype. Well, let me go ahead and get to the things that are up on the screen. So first of all, we have the rune. This is the last rune. We have pulled all however many, 25, 30, 110, 15, I don't know how many runes there are. I assume there's around 20 because that tends to be how many letters there are in various alphabets. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 25, yeah. So this one is called Fehu, F-E-H-U, or possessions. And the little blurb is cattle, goods, vital community wealth. Here we have the 7 of Wands. That's the one that's up there, I believe, right? If I recall correctly, valor is the word associated with it. 7 is associated with Netzach and Venus, and Wands are fire. But I'm going to go ahead and mostly defer to the book on this one. The youth's stance is that of a yeoman fighting for his land. 6 enemies are attacking from below. Oh, I didn't see them. I still don't. Oh, those are the wands that are... Oh, okay. Those are wands pointing at him from other people. Other people are holding them. Divinatory meeting. Victory. Okay, so maybe valor is the 6? Maybe I'm confused. Victory through courage. Success against opposition. The querent, that's like the person who's doing the query. If you're asking, if you go to a psychic and say, would you please do a tarot reading for me, then you are the querent, regardless of your gender identity or sexual orientation. Just to be clear, it's a homonym. Anyway, so homonym. The querent has the position of advantage, competition in business or trade, certain success. All right, so I think it's safe to say Carl Jung is going to be fine in today's journey in his mind. Next, we have the Hanged Man from the Golden Dawn Tarot, which is very interesting considering last time when, was it Gwydion was reading? Maybe it was Edward, I don't remember. Anyway, the point is there was the guy that was referred to literally as the Hanged Man or a Hanged Man. I think his soul identified because it was a man who had been hanged. He had been executed with a noose and all that because he was a poisoner. You remember? And I think even the Hanged Man, Carl Jung meets the Hanged Man was the description of the last Black Books episode here on Chicken Philosophy. But this is a different Hanged Man. See, it's Odin, basically. The Hanged Man, the 12th key, the 23rd path. The magical title of this card is the Spirit of the Mighty Waters. The path of the Hanged Man runs between the spheres of Hod and Givura, the orange and the red. It is the severity of splendor and the execution of judgment. Mars is acting through water upon Mercury. This is a path of self-sacrifice, loss, and the concept of the divine death associated with all of the dying god myths. Yeah. Some people might get their reactive buttons pushed by a phrase like dying god myths. Anyway, it represents the crucifixion of Christ. Yeah, they spelled it out there for you. And the slaying of Osiris. Yet, just as in all of these myths, the god dies and is resurrected into something greater. His death is a period of withdrawal that is absolutely necessary for the rebirth of all life. And just for fun, we'll read the divinatory. Is there what? There isn't. Oh, interpretation and a tarot reading. Enforced sacrifice, punishment, loss, fatal and not voluntary. Suffering generally. All right. In today's Celtic Tarot, for the first time, we have the Devil card appearing in a reading here on Chicken Philosophy. The Devil is the polar opposite of the Archangel in Key 14. Oh, don't do this. Oh, yeah, okay. So you remember Temperance? We've talked about Temperance before, haven't we? So it's saying the Devil is the opposite of Temperance. Okay. His horns are those of a goat, and his face is a goat's face. He has bat's wings. I mean, this is in the Rider-Waite, of course. He sits on a half cube. Let's just go to the divinatory meaning for now. Oh yeah, there is no devil except of man's own creation, and here it is evident that men are chained by their own wrong choices. However, the chains about their necks are loose and can be removed at will. So that's an interpretation. You know, I mean, it's a putting forth by whoever wrote this book. I don't know that Arthur Edward Waite would agree with that, but Pamela Coleman Smith might. Anyway, divinatory meaning: black magic, discontent, depression, illness, wrong use of force, bondage to the material, sensation divorced from understanding. The White Eagle medicine wheel card for today is the Cougar. So perhaps he's going to meet an older woman? No, I'm just kidding. Cougar, strength, assertiveness, leadership. Cougar so fierce, step away from the folds, turn the sheltered life, nothing more to hold. Leader born strong in the heart, bringing pride to stand apart. Down below we have the Sphere of Annihilation, is the magical tool. It says here, the sphere obliterates all matter it passes through and all matter that passes through it. Artifacts are the exception. Unless an artifact is susceptible to damage from a sphere of annihilation, it passes through the sphere unscathed. Anything else that touches the sphere but isn't wholly engulfed and obliterated by it takes a 4d10 force damage. This is a 2-foot diameter black sphere, is a hole in the multiverse, hovering in space and stabilized by a magical field surrounding it. So this is something Carl Jung has that he can use as a tool against the villain for today's episode, who is the Cloud Giant. Let's put a picture of him up on the screen. Any pertinent information about the Cloud Giant? He has advantage on wisdom or perception checks. Okay. No information. He's a cloud giant. Apparently he has wisdom. All right, so these are the 7 that we're going to come back to after today's reading and see if there was any relevance whatsoever between them and what Carl Jung goes through in his active imagination. Just before we get to it, today we're going to be burning sandalwood. If you have a little sandalwood at home, maybe you want to pause this and light it so that you can experience this YouTube video with 3 of your senses. Unless, of course, you're listening to it on Apple Podcasts, in which case that'd just be 2. And if you are listening to it on Apple Podcasts and you're not driving, why don't you pull up YouTube and search for Chicken Philosophy and hit subscribe while you're at it. And, find Carl Jung part 59. And you can watch as well. All right. Cheers. Got some black coffee in a yellow cup. A little bit of acknowledgement of the color scheme. Just a little small. All right, Editor Edward, time to change the music. February 9th, 1914. Did we start in 1913 and I forgot? I thought that we reached New Year's. I guess he started in late 1913 and now we're in early 1914. I was confused. I don't know why I was thinking 1915. Okay. It seems to me as if I look back as onto a work that has been accomplished. Shall I look back yet? Quote, how curious you are. Oh wait, this is his soul talking. Quote, how curious you are. Nothing is accomplished yet. End quote. What do you mean, not accomplished? Quote, this is only the beginning. End quote. Forgive me, my soul, but I think you are lying. Quote, infidel, whom are you quarreling with? Do you know better? End quote. I know nothing, Jon Snow, but I'd already gotten used to the idea that we had reached an end, at least a temporary end or some kind of closure. If even the dead are about to become extinct, what else is going to happen? Quote, but then the living must first begin to live. End quote. Pardon me, this remark could certainly be deeply meaningful, but it seems to be nothing but a joke. Quote, ungrateful wretch. End quote. Oh, there's no end quote, that's a footnote. Ungrateful wretch, you are getting impertinent. End quote. I'm not joking. Life, oh no. This is one of those weird things where there's quotes before the... What are you guys doing? So new. Don't do this. You're fucking with me. Ungrateful wretch, you are getting impertinent. I'm not joking. Life has yet to begin. End quote. The only thing that I can guess is that when Carl Jung was writing, and I kind of want to check, but I don't want to waste all our time. See, there's the handwriting. If he is ending a paragraph and starting a new paragraph, then no, even then it doesn't make sense to do an end quote and then keep talking and then do another end quote when it's all meant to be one thing. It's typos. It's multiple of the same kind of typo. Hopefully in a future edition of Black Books, they fix this. It's an issue. All right. What do you mean by that? Quote, I say life has yet to begin. Didn't you feel a bit empty today? Do you call that life? End quote. Is that different from banality? I suppose so. What you say is true, but I try to put as good a face as I can on everything and to settle for things. Quote, that might be quite comfortable, but you really ought to make much higher demands. End quote. That I dread. I will certainly not assume that I could satisfy my own demands, but neither do I think that you are capable of satisfying them. However, it might be that once again I'm not trusting you enough. I suppose that might be so because I've drawn closer to you in human terms and find you so urbane. Quote, "That proves nothing. Just don't assume that somehow you could ever grasp me and embody me. For this, you are simply too small." End quote. What should it be? It fills me with joy and horror that you want to give more. Quote, "You earned it because you have fulfilled your duty as a man toward other men." End quote. I always need to be demanding toward myself in this respect. A sweet thought that payment could be made for this. I give you payment in images, behold, without quotes, so it's a little confusing because it's not immediately clear that it's his soul responding. I give you payment in images, behold. I see Elijah, you remember the Anabaptist, and then Salome at some distance behind him. Elijah points at Salome, the seeing one. She comes closer. He takes her hand and leads her to me. She blushes and lowers her eyes while lovingly batting her eyelids. Bring me the head of the Baptist. Do you remember that story? That's who he's talking to, that's batting her eyelashes at him.
I want the head of John the Baptist.
All right. He speaks, quote, "Here, oh no, this is Elijah. He speaks, quote, "Here, I give you Salome. May she be yours." End quote. Thanks? I think he likes Salome, though. Remember, he's always like, "Where's Salome?" For those who've been listening for a while. For God's sake, what should I do with Salome? I'll give you 3 guesses. Never mind. I am already married. Oh, he already thought of it. And we are not among the Turks or in other patriarchal circumstances. Multiple wives. Oh, yeah, okay. Salome retreats intimidated. Elijah, "You helpless man, how ponderous you are. Is this not a beautiful gift? Is her healing not your doing? Won't you accept her love as the well-deserved payment for your trouble?" It seems to me, Elijah, a rather strange gift, more burden than joy. I am happy that Salome is thankful to me and loves me. I love her too, relatively, I suppose. Incidentally, the care I afforded her was literally pressed out of me, rather than something I gave freely and intentionally. I think you and I remember things differently, Carl. You're always snooping around in the dark underworld going, "Hey, where's Salome? Anybody seen Salome? Oh, there's Salome. Oh, my heart." Like, okay. He's like, "Oh, well, I just, they forced me into it." Mm-hmm. Okay, anyway. If my partly unintentional ordeal has had such a good outcome, I'm already completely satisfied. Elijah remains silent and looks at Salome. Oh, by the way, Richard Wilhelm had a daughter named Salome, the one who translated The Secret of the Golden Flower. And all of that happened 16 years after this. Makes me wonder if Carl Jung wasn't like, "Hey, I've been having this weird thing where Salome is in my active imagination and I healed her." And Richard Wilhelm was like, "Salome, that's a good name for my daughter that my wife's about to give birth to." I have to wonder. I don't know. Comment below if you have some insight into these sorts of things. Or maybe that was just a common name in Germany. Right. Salome, leave him. He is a strange man. Heaven knows what his motives are, but he seems to be curious. I'm not ugly, and surely I'm desirable for many, and not the lowest. Why do you refuse me? Why do you refuse me? I want to be your maid and serve you. I will sing and dance before you, play the lute for you, comfort you when you are sad, laugh with you when you are happy. I will carry all your thoughts in my heart. I will kiss the words that you speak to me. I will pick roses for you each day, and all my thoughts will wait upon you and surround you. Dear Salome, I thank you for your love. It is beautiful to hear love spoken of. It is music and old, far-off homesickness. Look, my tears are falling on your good words. I want to kneel before you and kiss your hands 100 times, because they want to give me the service of love. I don't think she was offering that, but she probably wouldn't say no if you asked her for a hand job. Sorry, love? Love? You speak so beautifully of love. One can never hear enough of love being spoken. Oh, that was Carl Jung still talking. Love? You speak so beautifully of love. One can never hear enough of love being spoken. Salome, why only speak? I want to be yours, utterly and completely yours. Yeah, she definitely wouldn't say no. You are like the serpent that coiled around me and pressed out my blood. Your sweet words wind around me, and I stand like someone crucified. Salome, why still crucified? Don't you see that unrelenting necessity has flung me onto the cross? It is impossibility that lames me. Salome, so you want to break through necessity? Is what you call a necessity really one? My principles. It sounds stupid, forgive me, but I have principles. Do not think that these are stale moral principles, for these are insights that life has imposed on me. Salome, what principles are these? You are harsh, but listen. I doubt that it is your destiny to belong to me. I do not want to intervene in your utterly singular life, since I can never help you to lead it to an end. I don't think she's asking you to kill her, Carl. Sorry. And what do you gain if one day I must lay you aside like a worn garment? Salome, your words are terrible, but true. But I love you so much that I could also lay myself aside when your time has come. I know that it would be the greatest torment for me to let you go away, but if you can do this for me, I can also do it for you. Yeah, okay. I would go on without lament, since I have not forgotten the dream that I had half a year ago. I saw my naked body lying on sharp needles and a mighty bronze wheel rolling over my breast, mauling it. I must think of it whenever I think of love. If it must be, I am ready. Salome, I don't want such a sacrifice. I want to bring you joy. Can I not be joy to you? I don't know. Perhaps, perhaps not. Salome, so then at least try. The attempt is the same as the act. Such attempts are costly. Salome, won't you bear the cost for my sake? I'm rather too weak, too exhausted after what I have suffered because of you. Still, to be able to undertake further tasks for you, I could not bear them. Salome, if you don't want to accept me, then surely I cannot accept you? ? It's not a matter of acceptance. If it's about anything in particular, it's about giving. Salome, but I do give myself to you. Just accept me. I, as if that would settle the matter. But being entangled with love, simply thinking about it is dreadful. Salome, so you really demand that I be and not be at the same time? That is impossible. What's wrong with you? I lack the strength to hoist another fate onto my shoulders. I have enough to carry. Salome, but what if I help you bear this load? How can you? You'd have to carry me, a recalcitrant burden. Shouldn't I have to carry it myself? Elijah, you speak the truth. May each one carry his load. He who wants to burden others with his baggage is their slave. It is not too difficult for anyone to lug themselves. Salome, but Father, couldn't I help him bear part of his burden? Elijah, that is not possible. Otherwise he would be your slave. Salome, or my master and ruler. That I shall not be. You should be a free human being with me. I can be neither slaves. I can bear neither slaves nor masters. I long for human beings. Salome, am I not a human being? I am begging you, be your own master and your own slave. Do not belong to me, but to yourself. Do not bear my burden, but your own. Thus you leave me my human freedom, a thing that's worth more to me than the right of ownership over another person. Salome, are you sending me away? I'm not sending you away. You must not be far from me. But give to me out of your fullness, not your longing. I cannot satisfy your poverty, just as you cannot still my longing. If your harvest is rich, send me some fruit from your garden. If you suffer from abundance, I will drink the brimming horn of your joy. I know that will be a balm for me. I can satisfy myself only at the table of the satisfied, not from the meager crumbs of those who yearn and desire. I will not steal my payment. You possess nothing, so how can you give? Insofar as you give, you demand. Elijah, old man, listen. You are a patriarchal Jew. Okay, so Elijah who hangs out with Salome is not the same as the Elijah that showed up and told Carl Jung that he was an Anabaptist who was on his way to Jerusalem. That is now canon in Carl Jung's fantasies. There's two Elijahs. The old man hanging out with Salome is the prophet. All right, that's clear. You have an old-fashioned gratitude. Do not give away your daughter, but set her on her own feet. And biblically, Salome, I don't think she's related to Elijah, and she's certainly not his daughter. They're many centuries apart, from what I understand. But, in Carl Jung's mind, a Jew is a Jew, I guess. Again, in Carl Jung's mind, according to my interpretation and inference. Okay, do not give away your daughter. Set her on her own feet. She might dance, sing, or play the lute before people, and they might throw flashing coins at her feet. Salome, you heard that. I will add, telling you that I thank you for your love. If you truly love me, go to the markets, dance, sing, or play the lute. Please people, so that they praise your beauty and your art. And if you have a rich harvest and you still love me, throw me one of your roses through the window. And if the joy, cross out joy, if the fount of your joy overflows, dance and sing to me once more. I long for the joy of men, for their fullness and freedom, and not their desires. Salome, crying, embraces her father. What hard and incomprehensible man you are. Elijah, you have changed since I last saw you. You speak another language, one that sounds foreign to me. My dear prophet, I'd like to believe that you find me changed, but you too seem to have changed. Where is your serpent? Yeah. Why are you asking about us? Elijah, she has gone astray. I believe she was stolen. Since then, things have been somewhat gloomy with us. Therefore, I would have been happy if you had at least accepted my daughter. I know where your serpent is. I have her. My soul fetched her for me from the underworld. She gives me hardness, wisdom, and magical power. We needed her in the upper world, since otherwise the underworld would have had the advantage to our detriment. Elijah, woe betide you, accursed robber! May God punish you. Your curse is powerless. Whoever possesses the servant cannot be touched by curses. So be sensible, old man. Whoever possesses the wisdom is not greedy for power, and only he who declines to use it has power. Do not cry, Salome. Fortune is only what you yourself create, and not what comes to you. Begone, my unhappy friends, the night grows late. Elijah, expunge the false gleam of power from your wisdom, and you, Salome, for the sake of our love, do not forget to dance.
Dance, magic dance. Dance, magic dance.
Thank you, David Bowie. Well, that was something. I remember there were one or two words and phrases that reminded me of these cards and this rune, but rather than just spontaneously off the cuff, wasting all of our time trying to put two and two together, I will allow Editor Edward to do that for us. Editor Edward, take it away! Greetings from 16 hours in the future. Good morning, as you can see from the light outside. Still morning, not noon yet. Nothing particularly striking, but the rune is for possessions, like cattle, vital goods, community wealth, and in a very old-fashioned problematic way, Elijah is offering his daughter Salome as a beautiful gift for Carl Jung to possess. I wrote here that that's an inappropriate gift, much like the head of the Baptist is kind of an inappropriate gift.
What can you want with the head of a man?
I want to look at it.
Those clips, by the way, are from King of Kings. It's an old movie from the 60s. There's a link in the description below. There was talk about he who wants to make others carry their burden becomes their slave. I thought that was interesting, tangentially related to possessions. Do not belong to me, belong to yourself. Freedom is worth more to me than the right over another person. These are all kind of on a theme of possession. You possess nothing, so how can you give, was another thing he said. Also, he possesses the serpent wand, which he stole. So that's the rune. Again, nothing too striking. The Rider-Waite 7 of Wands, victory through courage, success against opposition. You might say that Carl Jung is standing by his principles, not allowing this whole situation to degrade into some kind of fantasy fulfillment, because he clearly has a thing for the biblical villainous. And that kind of relates to the cougar. The cougar is, related to leadership and, so maybe. The Golden Dawn Tarot Hanged Man, sacrifice, self-sacrifice, loss, this kind of thing. He tells Salome, your words swirl around me like a serpent. I am as if crucified. You fling me onto the cross. So, the crucifixion imagery is not unfamiliar to these Black Books entries. She says, I don't want your sacrifice, I want your joy. So, again, nothing too striking, but that kind of seemed related to Hanged Man. The Devil card from the Celtic Tarot, the opposite of Temperance, people chained by their own wrong choices. Black magic, the black magic wand, of course. He gets cursed by Elijah at the end. Discontent and depression. That his soul tells him, didn't you feel a bit empty today? So, anyway, moving along. The medicine wheel, the cougar. Leadership and isolation, standing apart. Carl having the courage to stand apart from Salome. Again, it's a stretch. Nothing too like, oh, wow. Sometimes when we do these 7, it's like, oh, whoa, this is really deep. But this was just kind of like, eh. The magical tool, the sphere of annihilation. I don't know. The magic rod, the black rod, maybe Salome herself, the depression, maybe his anima. I don't know. I don't know about you, but the anima is starting to sound a little bit like an antagonist. And I know that at some point in his journey, he does integrate with the anima and he becomes the heroic figure. I forget the name of that process. We'll get there when it comes, in a few months or whenever we get to it. So yeah, she's saying, don't be so arrogant as to assume that you could embody me or that you could become one with me. And it's like, it always just seemed kind of odd to me in the first place that he's externalizing his soul as a separate thing, but interesting. The cloud giant has advantage on wisdom. He's telling Elijah, expunge the false gleam of power from your wisdom. Whoever possesses wisdom is not greedy for power. Only he who declines to use it has the power. So, yeah, that's what I got. Nothing too profound. Feel free to comment in the description below if you noticed something I didn't. I wanted to mention, for the first time, is this Fire Walk With Me, from people familiar with David Lynch. By the way, our prayers for the good health of David Lynch from here at Chicken Philosophy. Big fan of his work. Fire Walk With Me is, of course, the title of the movie that is the prequel to the Twin Peaks series. And anyway, so clearly I've used this holographic iridescent holographic Fire Walk With Me sticker to cover up the Apple logo on my MacBook Pro. And I got that from there's a person, like it's not like a corporation, it's a person who has these made and then sells them. I believe she's based in Ireland, and it's Cool Design, OHCOOL Design, all one word, .com, if I'm not mistaken. There's a link in the description below where you can get yourself one. So I'm going to be putting that in the description from here on out whenever me, Editor Edward, appears with the Fire Walk With Me logo on the laptop. So you can get yourself one. Cover up the Apple logo on your laptop if you want to. Cheers. Thank you, Editor Edward. All right, let's bring down the cards. I'm sure that was interesting. I obviously am in the past relative to Editor Edward. I shall one day become Editor Edward. Well, one day. But probably tomorrow. I'm not going to do that tonight. It's, it's evening. Usually, I mean, the last few of these BT Carl Jung Black Books ones that I've done, I usually record toward evening. Because it's just more comfortable wearing these heavy robes in such a tropical climate. And the least I can do is give myself some relief by not doing it while the sun is up. So I wanted to share with you just briefly before I go, and if it's up to you after we close as well, if you'd like. I've mentioned it before, but just briefly, I mean, regardless of the specifics, the only reason I'm not bringing it up is it'd be a sidetrack. I was going through a rough time, and one thing that was helping me through the rough time was listening to hours of Alan Watts. One of the things, I bought The Way of Zen, the book he wrote in 1959, I think, published in 1959, or 57 maybe. And read it, and then I saw he was like, and Dogen made such a great contribution to the culture of Japan as well as to Buddhism itself with his poetic teachings about, so many different aspects of Buddhism, but sadly it's never been translated into English. And then I was like, wait a minute, 1957 was a long time ago. This was like 2011, I think, when I was reading it, or reading, this Way of Zen. So I went on Amazon and, blew a paycheck buying all 4 volumes of Shobogenzo, which is Dogen's teachings. So Dogen went to China, spent some years there, came back and brought Zen with him, basically. And a lot of it's his lectures that somebody wrote down, and some of it's his writings. Just his thoughts on various subjects. And so then there was a big schism in the order I was in, and it was awful. People calling me but and I was on the side. For personal reasons and for strategic reasons, I was staying with the side that I disagreed with. And so when my students would call me, they'd say, well, I'm going to go with whoever you say I should go with. And I'm like, no, you won't be safe going the direction I'm going. You'll be, you'd be better off going with the other side. So this is goodbye. And they're like, what? This is so confusing. Why are you doing this to me? So I was having to break people's hearts just during lunch, and just it was a drag. Let's just say it was a drag. It was around March of 2011. And so my escape, or my healing, my self-healing, my thing that I was doing to make myself feel better, and also kind of planting the seeds that would eventually lead to my now living in India and so on and so forth. And this was still a couple years before I left the order. Anyway, so what I would do was I would read Shobogenzo on the train and listen to the Tibetan monks chanting, and I just really got into it. I really got into Dogen, and then I gave the books away. And then I came to India and I bought the books again because I missed them, and I started reading them again. And as I was reading them, I started taking notes of whenever Dogen would mention a teacher or a great master or the teachings of so-and-so, or he'd mention a sutra, he'd mention some other thing in Buddhism, and I would write it down. And then I would go buy whatever book I could find, whatever English translation of whatever it was that he was making reference to, because I wanted to get all the references that Dogen was making in Shobogenzo. And that eventually led to this whole bookshelf behind Pymander and so on and so forth. And so anyway, so I've been reading Tipitaka, and it's gotten to a part where Lord Buddha's establishing rules about, once there was a monk who was sick and he was vomiting, so Lord Buddha said, you can have honey as medicine. And it's kind of I'm reading it because out of love of Buddhism, I want to read it all. I don't want to skip over parts. And so And it's like, and then there was Ananda's preceptor, Ananda's teacher had scabs all over his body that were sticking to his robe, and it's like, ew. But also, Ananda had a preceptor? I always just assumed Buddha was his preceptor. So it's like, I'm learning little bits here and there still, but it's also kind of like, this isn't very like enlightening or anything. It's just kind of like rules about what to do when someone's got scabs that are sticking to their robes, and stuff like that in 2,600 years ago. And so I haven't been that interested in reading Tipitaka. I've been more interested because it's more entertaining for me to play different roles and read these other books on chicken philosophy. So I've been reading chicken philosophy. So I haven't been getting much of that special something from Buddhist books lately. And then last time we read Meccan Revelation. Edward read Meccan Revelation. That was Edward, right? Or Gwydion. Gwydion read Meccan Revelation. And it was kind of like, well, if you were there, you were there. I don't need to rehash it. It was just I didn't really enjoy the last reading. I enjoy a lot of Ibn Arabi, but sometimes it's just a particular vibe he goes on. I'm sure that maybe chicken philosophy is like that, where it's like some episodes are more enjoyable than others. Some Ibn Arabi writings for me are more enjoyable than others, and I didn't enjoy the last one. And so last night, late at night, actually, I think it was like after 11, I told my wife, I'm like, I know this is crazy, but I'm going to record right now. Like, I really want to reconnect with Dogen and Shobogenzo. So I read the third, because on Buddhist books, I've read the first and the second, like lectures or writings in the first book. And so I read the third one. And yeah, so that's Zen Buddhism Part 5 on Buddhist Books Podcast. That was last night, less than 24 hours ago, that posted. And I invite you to watch it. For me, it was a joy to reconnect with that je ne sais quoi, reconnect with that essence. And it was really nice. And I woke up early this morning and I did yoga, and I was just in a very nice state. And I attribute that, at least in part, to having recorded that. So if that's my sales pitch for the episode, and it'll be there after the chicken cluck. You're welcome to click the link in the middle of the screen, and it's like 22 minutes. It's a short one, maybe 26 minutes. I don't remember. It's less than 30 minutes. And it kind of cuts right to the chase, gets right to the point. I don't do any preamble or post-amble. I just kind of get right to the reading in this particular episode, unlike most other things I record and put out there. So that's all I got for you for today. Next time, it'll be Edward doing Nag Hammadi. It'll be Edward's turn to read Nag Hammadi. So you remember I started Nag Hammadi. Someone came on and was like, meh, 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 meh. You deluded white people. And I'm like, okay, you don't have to be racist with your bigoted, exoteric, Christianity-centric. Calling me delusional when you're coming from an evangelical background. Like, if you were Science and Reason telling me I'm delusional, I'd be like, yeah, okay, from your perspective, I totally own that. But someone's like, Christ is Lord, and you are a heretic, and how dare you talk about tarot cards and Tree of Life? You're a deluded person because you're white. I'm like, whew. Took me a few days to process through that one, but anyway, yeah, you didn't get to see it because I deleted the comment before it went public and blocked that person from the YouTube channel. Obviously, that's what you do in those cases, or at least what I do. Some people like to engage with conflict and assholes, but I don't. So that was Nag Hammadi Part 1. That was when I came and did that, and then Gwydion did Part 2. Oh no, Pymander. Pymander filled in and read Part 2. So yeah, next time on Chicken Philosophy. Who knows? Probably tomorrow, but maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday. I don't know. Edward will be doing Nag Hammadi Part 3, so you can look forward to that. And just real quick before I close, because once I close, then I'm done. And if I think of anything, I should have said this, I should have said that, then it's too late. Is there anything else? Anything you want to mention, Edward? Nope, there's really nothing. So stay tuned for the link. Click it if you want, and you can watch Zen Buddhism Part 5 on Buddhist Books Podcast.